Hey guys, welcome back to Planet Tyro. I'm your host Donald Wonder, and you're here with me for our April 2016 documentary of the month. And this time we're going to be talking about a documentary that's been requested by you guys pretty highly. It's got extremely high acclaim online, all the websites, a massive reception, and I was very curious to find out what the documentary was about, all the underlying theme to it, because to be honest with you, we're going to be talking about a documentary called The Imposter. And upon watching the trailer for this movie, this documentary, it was pretty, it seemed like you kind of know what it's about. Basically, if you guys don't know the story, in Texas, America, 1994, a young boy named Nicholas Barkley disappeared. 3 years later in Spain, he was claimed to be found as this other guy, this Spanish guy, who kind of looks nothing like him, who has an accent, who has apparently been abused. And basically he passed all these claims that he was the guy, and he got transported back to America to live with the family again. And as the movie, as the documentary is called The Imposter, you're kind of given the impression that it's not the boy, it's some kind of scam. But I guess there's more to the story that meets the eye. But again, after I watched the trailer, I just thought, okay, it's a story about this guy that's obviously going to turn out not to be the boy, so what's the big deal? Obviously he's an imposter. It's called The Imposter. Why am I watching this? I already know what it's about. Now, saying that, watching this documentary is the first thing that it actually just grabbed me straight off the bat, is that the main guy, this Spanish-French guy, who is the imposter, I'm going to put that in quotes, he actually kind of narrates the story, and he tells you right off the bat, within 5 minutes of the movie, you hear his story. And he's like, yeah, man, I grew up and I had no family, no friends. I've always been hanging around. And you basically find out within 10 minutes that, yeah, I'm an imposter. You're right. I just took advantage of the situation. And the thing that makes this documentary really well done, actually, this documentary is like a thriller movie. I've seen a movie with this kind of concept. This guy steals his identity, comes to the US, he comes to this nice family, and he's the imposter, and he's going to try to get away with it. And the way they shot the documentary, actually, they shot it in a way where the guy is narrating the story, and it's kind of, I don't want to say it's comedic, but he's telling you how he's getting away with it, everything that's going on in his mind. Meanwhile, you see the family giving their perspective. So this documentary is unique, where it's like a movie where the guy's telling you what he's doing, but he's a real guy. It's the real guy telling it. He's actually reenacting the things he did as well. So when you're talking about from a filmmaking perspective, there's a lot of good editing where this guy, he's like an actor. He's showing you the things he did. There's a lot of recreations in this documentary, and they shoot it like a movie. Now, when we talk about the real life aspect to it, it's quite sad. This boy went missing, and the way this guy took advantage of the situation, I guess the documentary kind of tries to paint him as a sympathetic guy because he came from a broken home. He was on the run all this time. I was engulfed with this guy as a character. But to be honest with you, obviously, I wanted to understand this story. Like, how could this family be fooled? How could they not believe? How could, a mother not know her own son? Even though, 3 years have gone by and puberty in boys can be pretty dramatic. This guy is 23 years old, and the boy was meant to be 16. So, but as the documentary goes on, there's another layer. There's another layer to the story. What actually happened to the boy? If this guy is the imposter, what actually happens to the boy? And as the movie goes on, especially the end, certain things are revealed, and there's another. Well, it's by the end of the movie, you're kind of taken down a different path, and you're like, okay, there was more to this. There's even more to the story than this kid just being the imposter. And at the time this was going on, I'm not an American. I don't know how big this story was at the time in the 90s when this happened. But when you're watching the documentary, they show you this was a big news story in Texas at the time. And when they found that he was the imposter, and they all started to wonder where this boy was, certain things were illuminated on what actually happened to the boy. And the whole documentary on the whole is really shot very, very well, edited well. The guy who plays the imposter, he does such a good job. I feel like he's an actor, and even though he was a trickster, he was a fraudster, he was wanted by the Interpol, and I would say it's a spoiler. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's just an interesting story about this guy. But when we get to the actual real life of what happens to this missing boy, it's really sad. And you know, the documentary, on the negative side, it leaves kind of unresolved, and that's the part I don't want to spoil, because certain elements to this isn't resolved, and it's really sad. But as a film, as a documentary, I like the concept. I like what they did with this. It wasn't typical. It was more than what I thought it was going to be. I found it to be darkly comedic in a way, especially this imposter guy. He's very brazen, and especially by the end, where you really see him just, you know, he's telling you his story. He's telling you all the lies. I mean, by the end of the story, I was like, this fucking guy is really something else. But the family and what happened to this kid, you know, overall, I liked the documentary as a film. But if you're talking about the real life story, I feel a little bit, I don't know, I felt funny about the actual plot because it's unresolved, and you know, I don't want to get into spoilers, but you know, I would say check it out. I do understand why it was so highly praised after all this time. I felt uncomfortable by the end, but from a filmmaking perspective, I can understand why it's a good documentary. But it's like a documentary film to me. It's like the half film, half documentary. But the real life aspect to me is kind of sad, but it is fascinating in a sense. But yeah, I understand why this is praised so much. I understand why it's recommended. You know, I would give it like a low first class in terms of filmmaking, especially in terms of filmmaking. In terms of a filmmaking, a documentary, this is very, I don't want to say unique, but it's done very well and very polished. As a story, as the real life documentary, it's just, man, I don't know, man. It's one of them things where it's not very nice. And this is a very reactionary discussion. Like, I'm just making this recording right after watching it. But, you know, is it well done? Sure. Is it more than meets the eye? Definitely. Is it, you know, if you watch a trailer, you think you know what it's about. And it is that, but then some. And that's pretty good, because I actually thought the trailer ruined them. I thought, why am I going to watch this? I know everything that's going to happen. But there was more than meets the eye with the story. And, you know, it's in some ways, it's very, very, very depressing and very sad. But, man, that's life, man. This thing has happened. These kind of things with stolen identity has happened before. This was a precedent that this guy from Spain conned his way into America. But, you know, let me not ramble on about it. Thanks for you guys pushing this towards me. It was a bit old. I think it was 2014 when this was made. But, you know, it's definitely something special. And as a documentary, again, very well done. So that's this month's documentary. I know we're doing very dreary documentaries. We're going to do something a little bit lighthearted on the next one, I reckon. Or maybe not. But guys, stick with us on the monthly documentaries. Leave us your recommendations down below. I want to see what other documentaries you guys think is good. We do have a list as we get through the year, but we want to hear what you guys think is good and interesting, and let us know what you think of The Imposter. No, it's a bit old, but share your thoughts. Anyway, guys, that was it. Thanks for watching. Hit the links on the right to all this other stuff we do, all the other annotations for movies, be it books, TV shows, Year of Looping, monthly documentaries, podcasts, what have you. And we'll see you on the next video, guys. Take care. Until then, peace out.